maybe 6 weeks in a row working night shift as a security guard on French Island in the Mississippi, um, which is part of La Crosse, Wisconsin. Um, I started at 10 o'clock. I finished at 6. It was a 2 mile walk each way. And I didn't see sunlight for 6 weeks. I had no days off. I don't remember why that was. The job paid well enough. I read Moby Dick. I wrote my first novel um, in the down moments, which exceeded the up moments. It was a garbage plant, and uh, they burned wood and garbage. It was a power plant, I should have said. They burned wood and garbage, and one of the things that would not be burned were super balls. And I had buckets of super balls, and that gave rise to a great deal of super ball antics for nearly for well over a year. No, years, because they lasted. I had these giant ice cream buckets. I filled them with super balls. People would ask me, can I have a bucket? And for whatever reason. And one was students wanted to throw one into one of their classrooms, and sure, I gave away buckets of super balls, and yet there were always buckets of super balls. But after that 6 week period, I had a night off, and I drank rum and coke, and I was in my favorite bar with my favorite people, and I was having a great time. I was up on alcohol. Um, Alcohol is ambivalent or paradoxical. A downer, it sure lifts you. Um, and I just had a blast. And my bartenders at that place were, they were the kind, they would give you a rum and coke, a standard rum and coke. And the next one would be a little more rum and a little less coke. And by the sixth one, you're drinking flavored rum. And I may have had more than six. I have no idea how many I had. Because when I woke from my blackout, um, I was trying to get into the window of my future wife's bedroom, and her brother caught me, and I lived with him, and nothing came of it. There were the usual questions. Um, he was with me at the bar, and so I had to ask. Did I take my pants off? Did I insult anybody? No, you were lots of fun, and nothing happened. We lost track of you. And then I remembered that he ignored the fact that I was trying to get into his sister's bedroom, and walked me home, where we actually shared a bedroom at that time. And I went to bed, and I woke up, and I had a miserable hangover, as I always did. That was the kind of drinker I was in the United States. When I moved to Slovenia, I was still that kind of drinker, only there was a lot more alcohol around. Um, Rafoshk is a local red wine, and it's a fresh wine. You don't age it. You can age it, but most of it is grown and shared amongst family members and friends, and you can always buy a liter for 250 to €3, and I loved it. It reminded me of the Refoshk or the red wine of Kirk Douglas as Ulysses, and it was just something I came to drink a lot of because you could. And one of the interesting things about it was that there was it was not measured except by the liter, because that's how you bought it. But if you can buy a liter for 250, you'll often buy a liter for or 5 liters for 15 at most. And so there were 5 liter jugs, and when the weather was cool enough, you could keep it out on the balcony. And I found that it was quite natural to want to be on the balcony to do my reading and writing. Um, I could drink a liter of Refoshk and write and read, and but it would never occur to me that this was the moment to stop. And so quite often, somewhere in the course of drinking that second liter, I had lost my sobriety, and was probably, even if I wasn't with someone, I was probably calling someone, or I don't know, who knows what I was doing. I just know that when I stood up, um, and back then I didn't have to go to the bathroom every 3 minutes or less. Uh, I I would stand up and fall down, stumble, whatever, and I was, blind drunk. And I guess blind drunk comes from. I as well take my glasses off for the blind drunk part. Blind drunk may come. I've never looked into it. I should, but blind drunk, or maybe I shouldn't. I have my own meaning for it. Blind drunk represents drunk to the point where you lose fragments of consciousness or memory, and and you don't know what you did or are doing. Um, that in itself is not a terrible problem. Um, I was here for um, I don't know how many years before I got drunk on a night when I had to teach the following day. Um, I'd taught university level, and had never been hung over when I taught. But it was finally after some 10 years, I was teaching in the high school level, and I was hungover, and I, uh, well, I broke a sink in the bathroom, um, in a way that you will have to read Arjun and the Good Snake to find out about. It was an accident, and it had maybe nothing to do with being hungover, but my reaction did. I just thought, God, I just broke this sink. And I laughed. And so the they call him the Hishnik, the janitor, I guess. On seeing my response, I went to him and I said, I just broke this sink. Um, and I was laughing. Because when you're hungover, you feel miserable, but also everything seems funny. And shortly after that, the principal of the school came into my classroom and pulled me out and said, "Are you drunk?" I said, "No, no, 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 I'm not drunk at all. I did drink a little too much last night, but I'm fine right now. But what happened in the bathroom was a complete accident, and he was fine. He liked me, and uh, it was all okay. But something else happened in those 10 years, and I did not grasp at all what was happening, but I was becoming an angrier and angrier person. But I'm not a very good angry person, and so the anger was so deep inside me that I didn't recognize it. It was something that I needed um, to deal with. It did not come out except for when I was drunk, and then it was only periodically, and on the surface, it usually had a cause, and and the so that I was not um, alert or self-aware enough to uh, examine the overall cause. And it's pretty mundane stuff. Some has to do with the family relationship, whatever. Some had to do with frustrations as a writer. Much had to do with frustrations as a teacher because I was always well liked by students and always, really, really upbeat and friendly, and but always very loose and wild. And so I had some problems with administrators, and I got fired quite a bit. Not from the main place where I worked, um, and there were no complaints at all that had to do with my behavior in class that I ever knew of. And but that was only a half-time job, and all the other half-time jobs I had went to shit without me even knowing why. And so there were these deep frustrations that gradually turned me into a periodically mean or angry drunk. And in the year 2009, um, I went to India knowing I had a drinking problem, and I decided to write Arjun and the Good Snake. This is the first version. Um, Arjun and the Good Snake, and being an epidemiological account of 6 weeks in India without alcohol. I wrote it in 6 weeks. Um, I gave myself a page limit every day, and it was probably the most fertile period of my life because I also had a son who was almost 7 years old and a daughter who was 5 years old. And every single day, I read a tremendous amount of Indian fiction, um, ran around town with my son, meanwhile arranging various trips to try to find a cobra in the wild, and and we were also making coconut art. I think I have a couple examples here. Um, what happened was I was making a coconut ashtray, um, and me and my son, he asked me one day. Actually, I was just making the ashtray, and he asked me, "Can you make me a water buffalo?" And this may be it. Um, this is my water buffalo. Um, they're based on demon masks. Um, this is a fairly common replica of a South Indian demon mask that's used to keep demons out, you know. And you see them on trucks in South India a lot. And anyway, I did go 6 weeks in India without drinking, and I did write Arjun and the Good Snake, being an epidemiological account of 6 weeks in India without alcohol. Um, a memoir that very, very unfortunately required um, great honesty on my part and self-excoriation. One of the first reviews of this 2011 volume We never found a way to sell it in an English-speaking country. So this is still. It came wrapped like this, and beautifully done by a Sylvan publisher. And uh, where was I? See, dementia comes from too much drinking when you're younger. Uh, the I wonder if I can pause.